So once you get your screen programmed and rolled up, the next thing you're going to do is measure for your tracks. What you're going to measure from is the bottom of the housing to wherever the tracks stop. In our case, it's going to be the top of this sill. Sometimes it's going to go down to a floor, wherever you need it to stop. You're going to butt your tape up to the housing. You're going to measure down. In my case, it's 45 3/8 inches. And then you're going to go to the other side, measure that one also. So that's 45 1/4, 45 3/8. So write that down, then go cut your tracks. Okay, well, so once you get your measurements for your tracks, you're going to take your tracks and cut them loose carefully. I always cut inside this insert so I don't scratch any powder coat. Carefully cut this plastic that it comes wrapped with at both ends. Then we're going to open these up. And you got the protective foam on these when they're packaged. It's just stuck to there. So we're going to remove that. And then in our case, our left measurement was 45 3/8. So I'm going to measure down. Now, one thing to keep in mind is we have a 1/4 inch cap on the bottom of this. So our 45 3/8 now becomes 45 1/8. So we got to mark that at 45 1/8. And I usually give myself a little bit more play, so I'm going to actually do 45 1/16 just to make sure it fits. And then on this side, it was 45 1/4. So I'm going to go right at 45 because I lost my 1/4 inch for the cap. And a 16th, so 44 15/16. From there, you're going to take them to the saw, cut them off, and then put the caps back on the bottom. Okay, now that I've cut my tracks down to size, I'm going to put my bottom caps back on. Before I do that, I usually remove the snap cap that was installed, remove that out, set it aside, and I mark left and right on those just so I don't get those mixed up later. And always mark on the back so that it's hidden once it's snapped on. So I'll put my bottom caps on. Then I'm going to pre-drill my tracks from there. So I've got my 3/16 drill bit, which is just the size I needed for my particular screw that I'm using. Generally speaking, I'm going to drill one within a couple inches of the top. And depending on the install situation is going to kind of determine the placement of the holes. In my case, it's only a 4-foot drop, so I'm going to do one at the top, one at the bottom. I usually like to go every about 3 feet or so along there. So I'll do one top, one bottom, and then divide some up in the middle, depending on the drop you have. So I'll drill one here at the top. Of each track. I tried it to stay centered inside this opening to keep the screw heads from messing it, from getting hung up in here. And I'm going to do one at the bottom. And on the bottom, you don't necessarily have to go about 1 inch. I usually go about 6 inches up from the bottom myself. And you're ready to install them. So once everything's pre-drilled, you're going to install the tracks. You can tell the top has the opening in it. The bottom is solid. So you're going to feed the top, you're going to feed the zipper through. And when you're doing this, the outside of your track should be flush with the edge of your housing, and the back of the track should be flush with the back of the housing. On a surface mount like this, it pretty much lines up the back pretty easily. So then really you're just paying attention to make sure that the outside is lined up. Once you get that lined up, I always do the top screw first. Make sure it's good and flush. Grab this. Do the other side. Again, making sure it's flush there also on both sides. it out a little bit. And there we go. Got the top screws in. So from there, what we're going to do is take our remote. We're going to run it down. So what this does is it acts as a gauge for where these tracks need to go on the bottom. You can see there's some play back and forth. You don't want to stretch it too tight, then you're stretching your fabric, causing a friction. Too far in is going to jam it, causing friction. So I go about halfway. You want about an 1/8 inch gap here, 8 to 3/16. A lot of the time what I'll do is I'll check that gap. I will verify with a level to make sure that the track is plumb, which as long as you installed your housing level, theoretically the track's going to be plumb, but it's good to verify. So I'm going to secure that one. Go to this side, same thing. Once that one's locked in, there's no real other place for this one to go. Same thing, 8 to 3/16 gap. Put your screws in, and your tracks are installed.